I'm Martin Grant, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to the first workshop of our 6-part series on navigating grants and net zero implementation for SMEs here at Aston University. We have a fantastic lineup for you today, featuring guest speakers Robin Carruthers, Operations Manager at Central Mailing Services, Tony Sartorius, Chairman of Alucast Limited, and Dr. Suresh Patel from Birmingham City Council. Each brings a wealth of experience and insight into making businesses more sustainable and grants available for your business. So I can talk to you a little bit about what it is that we're trying to do here. So nationally, small businesses form a huge proportion of economic activity and employment, and therefore are kind of contributors, along with a wide variety of other things, but to greenhouse gas emissions. So through the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero, and specifically within the West Midlands Combined Authority, because there's a kind of a substantial number of manufacturing activity in the area, what we're doing is running a pilot programme looking to see how we can potentially support businesses in order to both decarbonise and reduce their energy consumption. Those may not necessarily be the same thing. So that's what the programme is about. So the way that's kind of worked at just a very kind of fundamental level is that we're taking expertise from Aston University and their partners at Carruthers City Council and in the Black Country, and using their expertise to basically provide free energy assessments to help the businesses to understand what their current consumption situation is, and then also how that potentially could be improved through a series of recommendations. Okay, so as I say, it's primarily about aligning with UK government targets, but also the reason for the pilot programme is to see whether or not that could then be, it will be analysed and see what will be the kind of key kind of requirements in terms of rolling that out on a national basis. So from the small business point of view and broader, then obviously we're looking at potential kind of cost savings in terms of energy consumption. Any business that can run more efficiently will be in a stronger position. In terms of things like carbon footprint reduction, there are a number of benefits within that from an internal values perspective in terms of being able to kind of promote your business, and also depending on what your business is, there's a number of larger supply chains and larger organisations you might want to do business with that nowadays have their own corporate social responsibility issues, and so therefore will be looking to see if their suppliers can also then kind of contribute from the point of view of their energy reduction. The part of the encouragement, for want of a better expression, within this is that the government has made available grants in the region that could be anywhere from £1,000 to £100,000, and those grants will cover kind of specifics in terms of whether or not you're looking to do something that would be decarbonising or whether or not it's to do with energy reduction. From a small business point of view, you don't have to worry about any of that. It's basically have the assessment done, look at the recommendations, see whether or not that makes commercial sense from your point of view as a business owner and operator, and then move forward. So in terms of the actual process involved, as I say, there's basically, initially you kind of register, and that's through the Business Growth West Midlands Net Zero webpage. A couple of short forms, fill out some details, and again, that's two-part thing. One, to kind of make an assessment. We can only support small businesses, we can't support large organisations, and then to kind of understand a little bit about your energy consumption process. So this audit triage, personally hate the phrase, no one's on a battlefield. It's about just basically understanding what it is that your current position is, are you eligible, where can we turn around and actually support you. So that's what those initial assessment, the audit triage is about. We then, assuming everything's okay, move forward and book the right kind of time with you, come out and see you, and undertake the energy assessment process. So depending on your type of business, then that might be that you've got a small office absolutely fine. Could be that you're more at the medium end of the small medium enterprise and you're turning over a number of million, you've got a substantial number of staff, you may have different sites located around the area, and we will come out and do an assessment at each of those sites, as long as if that's what you want to do, as long as that's going to fit in with your future kind of requirements in terms of your managing your energy consumption. Okay, once we've kind of completed the assessment, then we will make a number of recommendations. You are then free to do with those as you wish. You can kind of take them and implement them and move forward, or you can choose to then go ahead and apply for a grant, having looked at the business case, and see how that can help you. We'll have much more detail of the actual grant application moving forward, but it's basically kind of up to 50% of your costs, subject to those 1,000 to 100,000 kind of limits. So if you've got a substantial programme that's going to basically spend 300,000, then the maximum you could kind of receive for that would be 100,000. But obviously it's still at that stage, that's quite a substantial help in terms of your payback period and also your upfront kind of costs. So in the first instance, I'd like to introduce Rob and Carruthers from Central Mailing Services.
Well, good evening, everybody. From my point of view, this has been a journey over the last 4 or 5 months, because I'm quite new to this business. But our business is, we produce mail for projects, for targets, and for our clients to express their campaigns through mail. So we were established in 1992, and we provide the best customer experience that we can with the latest technology, with a professional team that we design, data capture, produce and deliver. So envelopes, letters, as in what most people would see as a letter, has a glassine window. So it's mixed straight away, it's plastic and it's paper. What we designed, and other people in our field, is a full pack, which is completely recyclable, it's total paper and compostable. So this can be completely 100% recycled, where this, unfortunately, is pretty much landfill. The trade that I'm in is now changing, and other people are going down this road as well. The paper wrap is a newish product. It's been going for about 10 years, but now, because of the market is changing, and is now becoming a more regular thing. So we produce at the moment 24 million paper packs that can be recycled. We also still produce these, 16 million, but that scale is changing dramatically. We also produce 10 million poly. Now, people think poly is not recyclable. Actually, it is. The problem is we expect people at home to do the recycling. With all of these things is the same conversation. The Royal Mail has been on the news recently. They predict that they can produce 20 billion letters per year through their system. At the moment, they're only doing 7 billion. And that's because we flooded the market with junk mail, direct mail that wasn't targeted. And it's all about the data capture nowadays. You want to receive letters that are about yourself and your hobbies, your interests. If you're not interested in certain things, we don't want blanket mailings like they used to be. I was very fortunate that I worked with the Royal Mail to produce the boxes. Now, excuse me while I get my box. This is a Royal Mail tray. So a lot of people believe that actually the trays are recyclable at all times. There are 4.5 million of these in the system, and the beauty of these is they're tipped, untipped, tipped again, filled again, and just circulate around the system all the time. The good thing with these is you can actually put in the labels. So we can then use the postcodes to target the areas and reduce down the amount of transport that Royal Mail use to deliver the parcels. All the trays are throughout the country recirculated. They don't go abroad, so unfortunately abroad we still have to bulk pack. But this was designed many, many years ago, and it's stackable, it's safe, and it can have from 1 letter to, depending on what size, 500 letters. All labelled, all going to the right zones, right down to the postcode. So it makes it easier for the Royal Mail to consolidate the actual product. So that's what we produce. We produce mail. A little bit about me. I've been in print and direct mail all my working life. I've got over 30 years experience in apprenticeship in letterpress and litho printing. I moved to management in my late 20s, and I've had several operations director roles, manager roles, etc. I class myself as a true leader in my sector, and I went to Aston University to learn the higher level of understanding of leadership, and I also keep my learning up to date. So I've just completed being a qualified mental awareness first aider. In my career, I've seen lots of changes. Some of this you won't see on the slides. In my career, lots of changes. In manufacturing, when I came into it, there was no concern for the environment. There was no concern for recycling or sustainability. This has damaged a lot of the earth, as we all know. But there has to be change, but it has to come quite quickly. It has to come at a speed now. I embrace the change, and I lead my teams to change and adapt to all the aspects of the industry. Adapting to change is key for production, but also key for survival. Because if we don't adapt, it will not be there forever. Why do I get up in the morning? I love the role. The best thing is training the staff. Taking the young people, bringing them into the business, training them to be managers, training them to be operators, training them to be great people and part of the team. This is not about me standing there telling them what to do. This is bringing the team into it, that they actually have a say in what we're doing. My sustainability review. The objectives. By using all means available, we strive to become carbon neutral, carbon zero, by 2028. It's quite a tough target. By reducing our waste, our recycling, our power usage, our fuel, our transport, and using offsetting. Offsetting should be the last thing to use. Planting trees in countries away from where you are is not about that. It's not solving the problem, but it does have to be used sometimes. By measuring everything and the total greenhouse emissions caused by our organisation and our supply chain, it's not just about our isolated business, it's what's supplied to us and what we supply out of our business. We need to become socially responsible and lead to drive and reduce carbon emissions as part of our Stop the Global Warming. Invest with support into modern, more efficient equipment, using grants in partnership with the parties to improve our sustainability. Engage the staff, get them an integral part of our sustainability journey. To use technology and AI to reduce reliance on high staff levels, but the most important thing is to continually improve. So, one of our projects is solar power. We're looking to put solar power onto our building, and most people say, oh, solar power, you need a farm, you need land. You don't. If your building's as big as our building, you've got a roof. There's enough space on that roof when it's been checked that we can provide 75% of our own power. Yes, there's a cost, but that's a commitment from the business. Everything works from an action log, and I'm sure you won't be able to see the detail very well, but the action log is absolutely key to everything we do. Without the log, without the responsibilities, it just won't happen. It'll just be lip service. So understanding, where are you? Where do you start? Measuring, let's look at the facts. Let's find a starting point. Actions, what's your plan? Who's responsible? Finance, you will need money. You will need budgets for these things. Training and skills, you need to write training matrices. Make sure people understand what part of their world this is part of. Support, pull on all resources. Aims and targets, what's the future and where do you want to get to? So, as I said, I started looking at power. Our power is increasing because we have more machinery coming in. We use 487,000 round figures kilowatts per year. That equates to £224,000. If I can save 75% of that, we'll save a lot of money, which is fantastic, but we can invest that money into other things and takes us a massive step to carbon zero. We have other streams of waste that we need to look at. So the general waste is landfill. We have 40 tonnes of landfill per year. That's because we're not concentrating on recycling correctly, segregation correctly. But we're going to start doing that. That's one thing we're targeting to do. Wood waste. Now, wood waste is actually recyclable. It's chipped. But you still need somebody to come and pick it up. You need transport. And you need to start looking at that bigger picture. Our total recycled waste, which is mainly paper, which I'm talking, is actually declining. Because we order less overs, we have less mistakes, so our actual paper waste is declining down. We have sheet material, and as you can see, we had a peak in November for our Christmas period, but actually overall it is still reducing down. Our reels of paper, so we make these from a reel of pre-printed paper. So we have waste. Again, we reduce that down as much as we can. We keep aiming for the 0 mark. Container waste chips, so to make a product as like this, we have to cut off waste to make it to size. Those are shredded and sent out and all recycled again. Water usage. This is a recent one that I've done. We don't think instantly of water as a resource that we need to use. An average person will use 53,000 litres a year. The average household, 127,000 litres a year. We use 94 million litres a year. Those are the sort of things that you wouldn't think unless you were measuring. It's a massive number, and we can reduce that. Keeping the change. We are a member of the ISO 14001 environmental auditing and the 9001 quality. We're involved in that family because they're a set of rules that we can follow and we can base some of our projects on. We've joined the West Midlands Combined Authority Net Zero Business Pledge. Solar power, we've talked about. That will hopefully be going in within the next 3 to 4 months. It's a big project. We're at the stage where all the pricing is correct. We're just checking the roof is strong enough. And it's not, there's loads of people there to get advice from. Our compressor project is, we've been working with Aston University and Birmingham Council. We're looking to take out our compressors, which are very old equipment, replace, put new equipment in that's more efficient, less power and reduce downtime. We're also looking at electric fork trucks. We have some old gas trucks, which are colour gas, bottled gas, which drive inside the building, which you don't want to be breathing that in. But also, it's also good for your carbon zero. So we're changing those to electric, more modern equipment. We employ local talent. We try and find people that are close to our front door. Rather than scoping the whole of Birmingham, we look close to start with. We're working with Aston University in Birmingham, as I've said. We set our target to 2028 for the net carbon neutral. We engage the staff. They have to understand what part of sustainability projects they're going to be involved in. We've changed the business travel, so we actually have no company cars any longer. We have electric charging points for the staff. Helping staff to lead a sustainability lifestyle, cycle to work scheme, it's been there for years. Why aren't people using it? It's another thing we can put in place. Remove all dependence on gas, so we took out the gas boilers. We put in electric radiators. We have virtually no gas on site. We rewired all the lighting. Now, as you can see, our business is quite a big size. All the lighting is on sensors. When you walk into the area, the lights come on. When you leave, they go off. You'd be amazed how much that can save. It's expensive to put in, but actually the savings are there. The key thing is to keep it rolling. So you need to develop what they call a green team internally. You need a core set of people that are going to push this and drive it forward. You cannot do it alone. We build and review the action plan, allocate a budget, make a difference. Work across different sectors, change the chemicals that you use, the materials, develop it. So, for example, on these, we use vegan glue. So that's a less impact on the environment than the standard glues. This one here, which there are samples, this is seaweed based. It's not even paper based. So we can get away from paper pulp. Allocate time with the wider community to help reduce the carbon footprint. We work with Birmingham Hospice, who's our charity for the chosen year, and we help them with targeting their mailings, reducing their print and mail, their spend, and increase their target message. Excuse me. We're now starting to work with our suppliers because how they send that in can make a massive difference on your waste. So if we can reduce it before it gets there, we can reduce our figures. Working with our clients to help them with our technology to make sure that they understand the design can make a massive input on the environment. And I've put a proverb on there: be not afraid of going slowly, be afraid of standing still. If you're not pushing it, it's not going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next speaker is Tony Sartorius from Alucast.
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Tony Sartorius, I'm from Alucast. Purpose of today really, first of all I'd like to say how interested I was about the polls actually. That was really interesting to see everybody's views on the polls, and I just wonder as we go through just see how maybe some of my comments will sort of link with those polls. Really the purpose today is to explain how we've tried to save energy at Alucast and really to share my experience with you. I don't consider myself to be an expert in this area, but obviously running a foundry, and we'll talk about that in a minute, running a foundry means that you do use a lot of energy, and percentage of cost of sales, it's actually 8.8%. So I'm going to share those experiences with you. We're a casting manufacturer. We're casting aluminium, so we're running foundries basically, so we're melting aluminium material. The company started in 1967, so it's a well-established business, and it's been making castings mainly for the automotive industry these past 57 years. We're based in the Black Country, and this will give you just a brief outline of the number of employees. We're an SME, so medium-sized business, 126 employees. We've got sales of about 11 million. We export to Europe, America. In the past, we've exported to Korea and India. Not so much now. Just a point about aluminium and aluminium's recyclability, because I think that's important to understand that. Aluminium's made from bauxite, and bauxite is one of the most prevalent materials in the Earth's crust. Actually, 8% of the Earth's crust is aluminium. In aluminium hydroxide, it needs to be changed by the Hall process into aluminium. We use green aluminium that's been produced by the Hall process, but made in countries that have hydropower, so it's a green energy use there. We tend to buy that, and probably over 50% of the aluminium that we buy is green produced aluminium. 75% of the aluminium ever made is still in use today, so that's an important recyclability element. Once it's been used, aluminium can be recycled again, and it can be used very much like steel and iron, can be reused over and over again. So it has a green credential from that viewpoint. You'll see up here, probably not so green, but the fastest car in the world there. We made the Bugatti brakes back in 2007, I think that was. We made in the Black Country, a small manufacturer, we made aluminium parts for that car. Our largest customer is Aston Martin. They will be moving from ICE engines into electric vehicles as well. I think they'll still retain some ICE engines. And there you see David Beckham with the Olympic torch. We made the top and bottom caps for the Olympic torch. It was a great project, which was a Midland-based project, making the torch. We made the top and bottom caps. Another company in Coventry made the actual fabric of the torch. a local business here in Birmingham, made the burner mechanism, and once again great to have a small business in the Black Country associated with David Beckham going down the Thames with the Olympic torch. So that was great for us. So what do we do? Well, we're a foundry, as I mentioned earlier. We've got 4 foundries. We've got a gravity die casting foundry, a sand foundry, a low pressure foundry, and a high pressure foundry, and some of the pictures you see there are the types of processes that we operate. Well, of course, it's high energy use, so we're using electric and gas furnaces to melt that aluminium. So a great deal of energy is used there, and even 20 years ago or longer ago, we always looked at trying to save energy because it was always a high cost of sales in our costs. So we're always looking to save energy. So there we are, we're a high energy user. We're what's called a foundation industry, so very important to the economy. The metal products industry is important to nations as a foundation industry, very much like other industries such as cement, ceramics, paper. Previous speaker was talking about that, and chemicals. So it's important to the nation that we have a foundry industry and a metal products industry, because they're there to provide parts for other industries that couldn't really operate without those foundry products. So it's really important from a strategic viewpoint from the government to keep those industries in the country. And whilst we've seen let's say a reduction in manufacturing in the UK over these last 30 or so years, there's still 400 casting companies still in the UK, and we're seeing product now come back from abroad because of supply issues and really the cost of energy to move them from, let's say, the Far East and get them over to us. And the problems with the pandemic saw that there were hiatus in supply as well. So it makes sense to make the products in this country that are made in as green a possible way as we can, rather than sending them abroad to be made using fossil fuels 100% of the time. You see there that we're using 10 million kilowatts. And to put that into context, that's something like £800,000, 800 to 900,000 pounds. So it's a substantial cost in our business, which once again focuses us on trying to reduce energy. We're melting the aluminium at 720 degrees, and to put that into context with, let's say, steel, they're at sort of 1300. So our goal is to reduce energy and by controlling it in all areas. Historical actions, 14 years ago we changed our melting furnaces, and we got a grant aid from the Carbon Trust at the time, which helped us as an SME change the furnaces, and we were able to reduce our gas usage something like 25 to 40% by doing that. Those furnaces now are aging, and we want to look at replacing them again. In the interim, we'll still have to use probably gas. There are electric furnaces around, but the efficiency of the furnaces has been developed by the suppliers to me, and they can see sort of further energy savings. So if I can change those furnaces by help from the government with grants, that makes perfect sense to try and do that and then reduce our energy in the future. Back in 2014, we bought a new compressor. That was just a small item relatively, but we were helped by Birmingham City Council on a business innovation programme, and we got a 50% grant for that. So it was helpful to us to have a compressor that was variable speed. So what that means is that it's only pulling, you're only making the compressor work when you pull the air out of the receivers. So once the receiver's full, the actual compressor stops. So the idea is, it's very important to really use these more modern types of equipment, and we'll continue to do that. More recent actions, obviously everybody will be aware since the Ukraine war, and obviously more recently the troubles in the Red Sea have meant that the costs of energy have risen, and therefore it's focused industry again to really look at their energy costs and try and reduce them. As I mentioned before, Alucast uses about 8.8%, and that's gas and electric. So we're always looking at the melting, trying to reduce our melting costs and save energy. So how did we do that? Well, first of all, we work with Warwick Manufacturing Group, which has been mentioned earlier. They came along to the company and they looked at our processes, and they chose the machine shop to look at, because the machines, sometimes in the machine shop, we've got 25 machines, CNC machines, they were sometimes left on all day, all night and all weekend. Now, you might think, well, what's the reason for that? The reason for that is because sometimes when you try and start up a CNC machine, when it's cold, it's difficult to start and it causes a production problem. But what we did was we found that even at the weekend they were on, and therefore we should switch them off and then get into a routine of saving that, what we call unproductive energy use. So you might still be using 20, 30% energy even on just an idling on a CNC machine. So, a takeaway from this is if you're running your CNC machines and you're a manufacturer, try and switch them off and get a regime of trying to save energy from that viewpoint. We knew it worked because at Christmas we would switch them off on Christmas Eve, and it was just naught. The flat line was actually naught, and we did a calculation using our half-hourly data to show this graphically on the investigations that we did. Again, we some time ago, it was probably 12 months ago, maybe a bit less, we worked with the Repowering the Black Country programme, and we were working with other high energy users. So obviously the Black Country in Birmingham, to a great extent, we are manufacturers still, a higher proportion of manufacturing here in the Birmingham area, in the Black Country, the West Midlands, than in the rest of the UK perhaps, and therefore it seems a good idea to get together, try and formulate plans to reduce energy in our high energy consumption industries. I spoke to somebody who was in a steel manufacturing, and they said that they were going into trying to save energy. How would they do it? And they said submetering. And your business, if you're a manufacturer, probably has 1 or maybe 2 meters, and that just tells you how much energy you've used. You don't know where in the factory that energy has been used, but if you use submetering, you know against each machine, if you're prepared to put a submeter on it, how much it's using. And that can be linked to the cloud. Information can come to you and potentially down to your phone. And this person I spoke to said he knew at a big company, probably 1,000 people, energy bills of 2 or 3 times my energy bill, that somebody left the compressor on over the weekend and he'd know on his phone. So that's the way to do it. You've got to get involvement by other people and know where you're using that energy. So that sort of pinpointed me into, well, I want to do something like that. So following that, I got in touch with a company called ProEnviro, and they carried out this exercise, looking at the business, finding out on the half-hourly data, which is your energy that you use on electricity, your half-hourly data, if you're a big user, you will have half-hourly data, and it will tell you, the bulk of your energy use is going to be on the day shift, night shift probably less, something at the weekends as well, which you can hopefully save if you're not actually manufacturing at the weekend. So we looked at that and did an investigation. What we found, and I've indicated earlier, is we found there was what's called this unproductive energy that we wanted to target for savings. And when we started to switch off the machines, we started to see that energy savings could be made. We're very much on that early stage still, I have to say. But we will be fitting the sub-meters, and it's a big cost to the company, £80,000. But once again, you know, there is a government scheme, and it's just come in now, only just recently, these last 2 weeks. We're going to apply for a 50% grant. It's on a new government pilot, and it's applying to the West Midlands Combined Authority. And Lord Callanan, the Energy Minister, came to the company. Andy Street came as well, and Sean Bailey, our MP. And they came to promote this new initiative. It's a pilot scheme, so please, you know, try and find, if you're a big energy user, try and find out about it, you know, and try and get on to that. I think 500 companies can actually join up to that scheme. So the grant aid is through BEAS, the Business Energy and Advisory Service, and DESNES. We work with an advisor. It was Pro Enviro. They're a commercial organisation, but you know that whilst we'll pay them money to do that work, we're looking to sort of target 20 to 30% energy savings, and some of my colleagues in the foundry industry are making those savings, which are massive, you know, hundreds of thousands a year. So it's a really important one to consider. What that will mean is that we'll replace some of the furnaces as well. So I think I might have mentioned I've got 36 furnaces. If I can replace some of those on a rolling basis, furnace now costs me, you know, £20,000. So I'll probably pay, if I get 4, that's another 80,000. So including that with my costs of the sub-metering, that's 160,000. I might expand that to maybe 200,000 investment, and hopefully if I can get this application grant, I'll get £100,000, you know, grant, which will help me, my business, to make the savings. And then when I get those savings, I'll start reinvesting again in more furnaces and more efficient, lower carbon emissions. So we're moving on now. What are the key learnings? Well, I think previous speaker did talk about involving your staff. Well, you've got to involve your staff, and I think that's really important to get them involved. We go round every day. We're looking at all the furnaces. Are they covered at the end of the shift to make sure that the gas isn't on? We do keep the furnaces molten overnight so the next shift can start in the morning, but they need to be covered. Other machines need to be switched off. Another area is your compressors and your air leaks. Air leaks are absolutely massive, and if you hear hissing in the factory when the people have stopped work, it's an air leak and it's costing you pounds and pounds. So fix your air leaks, and we have an apprentice going around every day looking at those sort of things. I think, you know, well, you're here today, so it's great. Network as much as you can about this area. It is a big saving. It's going to help with carbon to the atmosphere. So if you can find out what other people are doing, you might get tips and help that can help you in your business. And I think that's a great way, because I've benefited from that. I'd say get involved with academia, and you know, once again, you're here today. So Aston University can help out, WMG can help out. We've worked with Aston University in the past. We've worked with WMG, BCU, and some of the universities near in Birmingham. The net zero and decarbonisation meetings. Well, our industry has its own decarbonisation meetings once every quarter, and I get together with the rest of the foundry industry to really talk about our processes and the good ideas that other people have had that we perhaps haven't thought of. So think about that. Get involved with your trade associations. You know, if you've got a trade association, perhaps join that or get involved, because they should have a net zero carbon policy that can indicate particular areas where you can benefit very much the way we're trying to now. So, you know, that's it really from me. It's start saving energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Our next speaker is Dr. Suresh Patel, so from Birmingham City Council. Just to quickly kind of picking up on some what Tony was saying then, just to kind of connect a few dots there. We're kind of talking in terms of, at the moment, sort of the Birmingham and Solihull region, but the programme is actually delivered across West Midlands Combined Authority, so we're delivering it in Coventry via Coventry City Council, and also within the Black Country, and Pro Enviro are in fact one of our kind of partners within that. In terms of, in terms of the actual grant applications, all roads basically lead, as Suresh is going to tell you, through the initially kind of through the Business Growth West Midlands kind of website. So registering within that will then kind of help to, via ourselves and our partners, sort of steer you as to whether you're a high intensive energy user or more of a standard user, depending on whether you're looking for something from a decarbonisation perspective or from an energy reduction perspective. But it's basically that's the kind of initial starting point. So Suresh, over to you.
So good evening, everyone. My presentation will focus on grant funding available to support SMEs and their journey on net zero. The aim of the presentation is threefold. The first is to share information with you all about the grant programs we're currently running, and also a new program that we'll announce shortly. Second, to provide a route map for grant funding to support net zero projects and business growth. And finally, to provide some practical tips to try and help you make a successful grant application. Before I start my presentation, I just want to give you a little bit of context around a couple of questions that people normally ask me. And this is not part of the presentation. Just take a couple of minutes of your time. So the first thing is, the first question asked is about why do we support SMEs? And not surprised why people ask, because obviously I've been doing this role for so many years, so the answers are very clear to me. However, 99.9% of all businesses are actually SMEs, and that is at a country level, regional, sub-regional and local level. So that in itself is quite a compelling data. That means 5.6 million are SMEs themselves. Okay. The second data is that SMEs account for about 61% of the employment in the country. And again, this is mirrored at different levels of geography. The pattern, the trend is the same. That equates to 16.4 million people who are employed. If you look at the sectoral contribution, then 1% people employed are in agriculture, 18 to 19% are in the manufacturing sector, and 80 to 81% are actually involved in the services sector. If you look at the combined turnover of the SMEs, that equates to 2.18 trillion GDP, which is about 52% of the UK private sector turnover. So as you can see, as far as SME is concerned, there are compelling data, compelling evidence why we support SMEs. Of course, in addition to other reasons like they're innovative, they spot the gap in the market, etc., etc. Lots of reasons to support SMEs. The second question people ask me is why net zero? Well, let me start with the definition. As I understand it, net zero is the balance between greenhouse gases, which is produced, in relation to how much of that gas is removed in the atmosphere or from the atmosphere. So that gives you slight, simple definition of the balance between the greenhouse gases. The other thing I would say is that we're talking about net zero today. I hope in the future we can talk about gross zero or real zero, where energy-intensive industries can actually work in terms of eliminating, completely eliminating carbon emissions from the operations. Okay, so main part of the presentation. What does the BDI team do? That's my team, Business Development and Innovation. Both gentlemen, I think we've had some dealings with in the past from Birmingham City Council. Okay, so we deliver business support programs that enable SMEs to access finance to improve productivity and the competitiveness through the business growth West Midlands offer. Second point is that we are a one-stop shop for startups and existing businesses. Thirdly, we work with UK Shared Prosperity Fund and also the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero, including universities, local authorities, as well as membership bodies and trade bodies across the West Midlands. The 2 grant programs currently available today, with a further grant program that we'll be launching shortly. The 2 programs that is currently running is called the West Midlands Grant Programme, and that's been operating for the last 10 months. We've already committed over 50% of the budget. We've got another year to run, or just a little bit over 12 months, and I'm pretty confident that we can reach that target. The Net Zero Grant Programme is just recently started, and again, that's now beginning to gain momentum, and I'm sure we'll deliver that to the original target as well. The third program is called BEES, which I think you mentioned earlier on. You got the heads up on that. So BEES stands for Business Energy Advice Scheme. I know there's another acronym associated with that, depending on which organisation you talk to. For example, West Midlands Combined Authority or Aston University as well. But it doesn't matter. It means the same thing. Okay, so let's start with the first program, Net Zero Grant Programme. This program helps to purchase assets. So it helps SMEs to purchase assets which will support their net zero transition by supporting decarbonisation and improving the natural environment whilst growing the local economy. Now that point in itself is very challenging for businesses, because if a business is going to double its turnover from, say, 10 million to 20 million, the theory says is that you're going to double the CO2 emission. Not necessarily so. We ran a program, £75 million program, between 2012 and 2015, called the Green Beach Supply Chain Programme, and we had loads of companies who were able to demonstrate green benefits as early as that, 10, 12 years ago. And we know, by gathering all that intelligence, that we need to continue programs which support net zero. And I'm really pleased to see we've got several programs up and running and about to run, which will continue that legacy. Second point is that we help businesses to reduce environmental impact and improving the triple bottom line. Third point is to remove financial barriers. Clearly, with post-COVID-19, with Brexit, there's been quite a change in terms of the risk-reward ratio for businesses. Obviously, they've been much more risky. Uncertainty means risk. And as a result of that, it's only right that we actually provide financial incentive to rebalance that a little bit and bring projects that they may want to expand sometime later on in the year or 2 years, to bring them forward and therefore accelerate economic growth. Finally, enable SMEs to make carbon savings through increased energy and resource efficiency by bringing business costs down. So there's a direct relationship between reducing energy and, of course, reducing cost. Okay, so what's the main features of Net Zero Grant Programme? SMEs have to be based in the area or moving into the Birmingham or Solihull MBC local authority areas. Second, available to start-up and existing businesses. Third, capital grants available from £2,500 to £7,500 for start-up businesses, and £5,000 to £100,000 for existing businesses. Also, they have to be at least 50% match funding in order for that project to proceed. Other features, SMEs must undertake an energy audit through the University of Aston and its consortia, and also prior to applying for the grant. So this energy assessment has to be done first, audit, and then it would come to our grant fund. And obviously with that baseline data, we could then obviously support you in your grant application. No requirement for job creation, you'll be pleased to know. This is not a job-related program. It's about energy and net zero. And it closes March 2025, subject to availability of funds. So type of eligible project cost includes ventilation, heating, renewable technologies, lighting, refrigeration, compressors, insulation, solar panels, wind turbines, recycling and waste, and water management. So that's the first program, Net Zero. The second one is a program called West Midlands Grant Programme, or West Midlands SME Grant Programme. This has been running since April last year. So we're into just completed 10 months. We've overcommitted the budget by more than 50%. So what is this program about? Well, it's about growth, business growth. And the first point is that it's funded through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund and managed by West Midlands Combined Authority. And the second point is that it is all capital grants available in Birmingham, Solihull and Shropshire. Also, third point is that capital and revenue grants are only available in Cannock. And fourthly, this is job creation. So this program is to do with job creation. The main features for this, as previous program, business have to be based in the area or the business moving into Birmingham, Solihull, Cannock or Shropshire local authority areas. It is available to startups and existing businesses. Again, the amounts are very similar. In this case, grant range from 2,500 to 7,500 for startups in Birmingham, Cannock and Solihull. And grants range from 5,000 to 100,000 for existing businesses based in Birmingham, Cannock and Solihull, including Shropshire. And again, it's up to 50% match funding. So type of eligible project cost includes establishment of new businesses and startups, and that is applying to Birmingham, Cannock and Solihull. Relocation, expansion and growth, that applies to existing businesses. Inward investment, developing new market opportunities, innovation, capital investment, for example, new plant, equipment, machinery, including increasing productive capacity for new and existing businesses, including new property builds, refurbishments and extensions, and digital projects. All of those would apply in those areas. And then finally, small one-off grants in apprenticeship, which only applies to Cannock. Now, that's the third program now, this one, which is called Business Energy Advice Scheme. And this program is a pilot program which is about to start very shortly. And it's funded through a Department of Energy, Energy Security and Net Zero, including a Department of Levelling Up, Housing and Communities, and this is going to be launching very shortly. This scheme, or this program, seeks to support businesses in mitigating the impact of rises in energy costs and support their transition to net zero. It will also complement the net zero program. There's no reason why all three programs can actually work in some cases for a business who can demonstrate why they need assistance in all those areas. As long as there's no duplication or overlapping and there's no sort of duplication of costs, then there's no reason why you can put a package together in some instances. So the capital grants supports businesses to purchase assets, again, like the previous programme. Grants available in this particular case is from £1,000 to £100,000. It's a 2-year minimum payback period where savings must exceed grant awarded. Again, main features of this programme is that SMEs must undertake an energy audit prior to applying for the grant support. No requirement for job creation as far as this programme is concerned. But you'll be pleased to know about that. And closes in March 2025, subject to availability of funds. So all programmes then, this programme is actually operating in territorial level 1 areas, which includes Birmingham City Council, Solihull Metropolitan Borough Council, City of Wolverhampton Council, Coventry City Council, Dudley Council, Sandwell Metropolitan Borough Council, and also Walsall Council as well. All 3 programmes operate on a simple 3-stage application process. The first is the pre-screening process. Now this is quite important. If we can get this right, then the rest of it becomes a lot easier. Pre-screening is about defining eligibility. Are you eligible or not? If you're not, then obviously something we can't help with because you don't meet the mandatory criteria. But also, it's a good opportunity to look at the application form and accompanying documents or supporting evidence. Anything missing, obviously we'll come back to you to say this is missing or that's missing, and then you can then supply all the information to us. This will then result in a proper project appraisal, which includes financial appraisal as well. In terms of financial appraisal, we're looking at your current viability. We're not interested in any forecast projected financial statements, anything like that for the next 2 years. We're more interested in about your current situation. Project decision, depending on how much grant is requested. If it's up to £30,000, it will go through to an investment panel. And if it's over 30,000, but under 100,000, it'll come to an investment board, which is a private sector-led board, composing of very senior people with a lot of expertise in finance, marketing, etc., etc. So, on the practical side then, what are the 5 tips we can give you in submitting a successful grant application? The first one is use the support offered by the local authorities, Aston Partnership Consortia, the Growth Hub, as they have a lot of expertise in supporting applications, and this is free of charge. The second one is use the guidance notes which have been written, prepared, to match the application form. So every question on the application form will have a matching text in terms of how to fill that space. And third one is to look at the checklist at the back of the application form, nearly at the back, to verify you've submitted all the supporting evidence. Submitting an incomplete application will result in processing delays and also delaying in a funding decision. So it's best to try and get it right first time. We've given you everything, almost like a DIY kit. And if you stick with that, if there's any doubt, and sometimes there is, then what you need to do is to contact us and we can put you right rather than you obviously wasting a lot of money, which is obviously time is money in the private sector. We're here to support you and handhold any aspect of the application form. Okay, the fourth tip is don't use special characters or punctuation in file names, or those files will be blocked, and don't send large files, zip them. We have had several cases where the company believes that they've sent us all the information. In fact, we've never received it. And it could be any of those 2 reasons. And therefore, weeks have gone past. And then we start chasing them or they start chasing us. And then obviously we got a difference of opinion. We then report this to our IT people, and suddenly they say, well, we've never received it, and it could be because of size of the file. Okay, so if you zip it, then obviously that's more helpful, really. So, you know, please remember that. We have had some instances where we've never received the application. You think you've sent it, we haven't received it, and there's an information gap, basically, which is not very helpful, because when you waste time in business world, obviously that means it costs you money as well. And the final tip is, if you haven't heard from us within 3 working days of submitting your application, then email us on wmgp@birmingham.gov.uk. And this slide is giving you the different links and also email addresses as well.
The other thing now is if there are, from myself or any of the presenters, if there's any kind of questions that's kind of raised, anything at all. Yes.
So thank you for all the speakers, found that fascinating, and from somebody who's from a manufacturing background and from a steel industry, when we used to have one in Sheffield, it was really nice to hear those presentations, so thank you for that. I just wanted to clarify when Suresh was talking about the Growth Hub, just in case you were wondering what that is. So I manage the Birmingham and Solihull Growth Hub, so we've got a team of advisors, business advisors, account managers who are fully funded, and we're there to support you in terms of issues such as this. So we talked about the grant application process. We're currently working with, I hate to think how many businesses that are going through that process, so we can help them with that, advise them on the application itself and other areas of business that they might be looking for support on. So it was just that, thank you.
Great, no, thank you very much for that. That's very, very useful.
Thanks for today, and myself and Maria are from Coventry City Council, so we're one of the delivery partners with Aston University. One thing that we just wanted to touch on, that every business, if they're from Coventry, Black Country, Solihull or Birmingham, can join our network. So basically you get a newsletter, you have accessibility to webinars, podcasts, etc., all on these topics, so it's really worth. So we've bought some little leaflets just so you can kind of scan the QR codes, but definitely worth every business's registering on that.
This may have been covered already. I was interested in how do we access the energy audits, which I think are via partners at Aston Uni.
It's basically in the, there will be a link coming up after this slide. Basically all routes lead via the Business Growth West Midlands Net Zero webpage. So it's pretty straightforward. There's a set of questions, sort of 2-part form, and that's basically kind of covering background information about the business, and then some small amounts of information in terms of your kind of current energy consumption. And again, that's as Suresh was saying, that so that we can, as early as possible, establish that you're eligible for the programme, and that way also, depending on, because it's covering the whole of the West Midlands, so as Claire was saying there, if you're from Coventry, then it all comes through to us at Aston, but we then basically kind of, just from a central management point of view, and then we then kind of will route that to whoever the partners are, so whether it's Coventry City Council or Pro Enviro, as we kind of mentioned earlier, or ourselves. So you will then basically, within a couple of days, you'll be contacted by a member of staff there to sort of basically start that process with you. So.
Thank you. Sorry, I had understood that was for the grants. I hadn't understood that was for the audits. That's really helpful. Thank you. Could I ask a second question? If it's not relevant to other people here, we can pick up with it separately. We're an organisation, a not-for-profit social enterprise that rents a building, so we're not in charge of, and we don't have really any power and input over the energy usage. It happens to be a very green, environmentally friendly building. Obviously, there are other energy or carbon producing activities we undertake, including kind of staff transport and that kind of thing, but we're not a manufacturer. So I'm just wondering how relevant the audit would be to us in those circumstances.
We can have a separate conversation to drill down into the nitty-gritty of that, in broad terms, there's very few organisations that aren't eligible. So I didn't kind of want to just bury everything in kind of detail, but if you're kind of from forestry, that kind of stuff, then you potentially wouldn't be eligible because, again, it's an area that's already kind of supported. The organisation needs to be undertaking some sort of commercial activity. So if you're a registered charity and it's purely kind of donations, then you wouldn't be kind of eligible with that. But if you are a community interest company or an organisation that raises money through kind of commercial activity, but is a non-profit, then yeah, potentially, depending on the circumstance, we could then support within that. In terms of the building, it was, I guess, on some levels would depend on kind of lease terms, things like that, but it may be that we need to basically bring the landlord into some of those conversations. Again, depending upon what the recommendations are at the time and what sort of scale of changes are being undertaken. So some of this can be, and businesses have saved quite substantial amounts of money just doing this, which is basically putting in a much more efficient lighting network within the building. So that might be something that's actually within your power, and you have responsibility of within the lease. Starting to kind of stick some solar panels on the roof, for example, may be obviously a more kind of complex conversation, but it's not to say it couldn't necessarily happen.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure to guide you through today's workshop. A huge thank you to our guest speakers, Robin Carruthers, Tony Sartorius and Dr. Suresh Patel for their invaluable contributions. We hope their insights and the details of the Decarbonisation Net Programme have inspired and equipped you to start or advance your business's sustainability journey. Remember, this workshop is just the beginning of your path to net zero, and you can sign up for a free energy assessment with the link in the description.